welcome back to another edition of the Dirty Verdict Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Peter Taft, joined as always by Bill Ogden.
Hey-o.
You went second this time. Did you notice that?
I wanted to go third. I wanted to go third.
My junior assistant partner, Kyle Herbert.
Adding third, trial lawyer, Houston, Texas, Kyle Herbert. Thanks for joining us, Kyle.
Hey, Pete, it's my pleasure to be here. I wanted the audience to know that we have a special behind-the-scenes guest today. Tony Samples is filling in as our production engineer.
He shakes his head, no, don't say his name.
He has no experience. He got kicked out of the AV club for nefarious activities in the closet full of all the wires. But in case this doesn't go very smoothly, it's Tony's fault.
Very good. Thank you, Tony. All right. So, Bill, I'm going to give you the honor of introducing our guest since you know him very well.
Well, before we do that, what is it called, like if you're on the Mount Rushmore, but you're not old and dead yet? Because that's who our guest is this week. Kyle Farrar, my mentor, law colleague, we'll call it, and somebody who I never want to disappoint. Kyle Farrar.
That might be the most brown-nosing introduction we've ever had.
Well, I was going to say all of his awards, but it would be like listing him off in 2005 for Tiger Woods. You just keep saying other wins that he got.
He's Reaganing.
2023 National Trial Lawyer of the Year, 2024 National Trial Lawyer of the Year, 2016 Fifth Circuit Appellate Lawyer of the Month. I forget what the award in the National Appellate Lawyer Award.
The Pound Institute.
Pound Institute.
We got Minnesota Lawyer of the Year too.
In Minnesota, where he's licensed, the entire state, he won Lawyer of the Year, and that's actually a huge deal in Minnesota.
You were out in a boot in Minnesota?
At a boot.
Kyle's got more plaques than anyone you know, and I could guarantee you he's never paid for one.
So Got it. Okay, well, thank you for that, Bill. And Kyle, Bill's talked at length about everything he just said. He said on the show and at one time or another. So thanks for joining us.
What do you call a gang of Kyles? Is that like a murder?
That's you're all one cool Kyle, and then you call the other one Kyle Herbert.
Y'all are on a cam together. It's the Kyle cam. So look out there, the Kyle cam. There we go.
Two is for Kyle.
So Kyle Farrar, I thought what we do is just kind of break down kind of your background. And then what I really want to get into is a couple of recent verdicts. One as recently as last Friday in Florida. I think it was $31 million. And then the big one in Philadelphia year before, which garnered you one of those National Trial Lawyer of the Year awards. And then, of course, any little ones.
Is this other stuff in between?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So, Kyle, where are you from originally?
College Station. Moved around a little bit, but mostly College Station.
Got it.
Yeah, I went to A&M and then Baylor Law School.
Tough table for those two. One,
Yeah.
these guys are both UT diehards, and two, no one likes Baylor. So, excuse me, nobody likes Waco.
That's true. No one likes some of their football and basketball and baseball history.
We do love the
Briles.
We do love the Longhorns, but Kyle and I went to a football game together last year at Kyle Field. So that's something.
Trying to turn.
Now everybody knows where the name came from.
Yeah. All right. So Baylor, which, despite what Kyle just said, has a reputation for excellent trial lawyer training.
On the plaintiff side, guys that went to Baylor, they piss me off.
Practice court is known to be
effective
but excellent at training lawyers.
And they have to work hard, and they're smart and test well. Like Baylor's like that perfect pocket of trial lawyers, and I don't like it because I didn't go there and couldn't.
We're actually starting a plaintiffs sort of group at Baylor Law School to try to focus more on teaching people to be plaintiff's attorneys. The new practice court professor that I went to school with, Anthony Brewster, is great, is starting that program and emailed Wes and I the other day kind of about it. He's super excited about it. I think it's really a cool idea. It seems like every law school teaches, even if they're doing trial ad, it's always like, how do you defend the giant corporation against the injured people? And Baylor's definitely different, always has been, but they're really trying to create a plaintiffs specific group right now.
Good.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I pitched that class at our law school. I was like, if y'all want to teach kids, people how to be lawyers and not just teach them the law, then you need to have a class on personal injury, because statistically there's going to be a handful of them in this room.
Yeah. I'm sure Brad Beckworth is probably involved in that. He's a good friend of mine, trial lawyer at Nix Patterson.
Yep, I'm sure he is.
National practice like you've got.
Right.
Okay, so after Baylor, where'd you go?
Went to Vincent and Elkins for a very short time.
Tell us what type of cases you were doing over there, Kyle.
tire cases, randomly enough, representing Firestone. We did some other stuff, some pharmaceutical work, and got a lot of good training. I got really lucky. My mentor there was a lawyer named Donnie Griffin, who's a fantastic lawyer, and made sure that I was doing really cool, fun stuff. I spent a lot of time in Mexico doing investigative work for Firestone on cases that were Mexican, where the accident happened in Mexico. We'd go down and meet with the federales and sort of do like not really lawyer work, but it was hella fun. Go down with a private eye and a Mexican lawyer, spend some time down there. It was really, really good. I really liked it, but I always wanted to be on the plaintiff side. So a little bit less than 3 years, my partner and I, Wes, decided we're going to go do our own thing.
And was he at B&E with you?
No, he started at a defense firm, and then he was with Ammons. He was doing tire work, prosecuting tire cases at Ammons, and I was defending Firestone. We opened our own firm and said, no matter what we do, we will never do a tire case. These are dumb, and that's pretty much all we've done.
You only calls we get.
It's like, I thought it was a dying science 10 years ago when I started it. I was not. It's
Keeping it alive.
alive and well.
So did you and Wes go to law school together?
We did, yeah. We met in law school. It's one of those things where you have those like law buddy sort of, this is your law buddy, and I'm at this big picnic, and probably going to be some alumni that I went with, but I'm looking around, I'm like, man, this isn't really a group I really want to hang with. And I saw Wes, I was like, I wonder if there's any chance that'd be my law buddy. That guy looks kind of cool. Turns out he was. We talked a little bit. I asked him if he played golf. He was like, yeah, I played golf in college. So we played golf the next day, became friends. And I mean, right off, we were like, well, we're going to open up a plaintiff's firm, right? Like, we don't want to do defense stuff. And we always knew we were going to. I don't think either one of us knew we were going to less than 3 years out in our, sort of mid to late 20s, because that's insane.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, it was dumb. It was dumb. But that's what we decided to do, and hit some lucky breaks along the way, and it worked out.
Yeah. So, I mean, prosecuting those cases is not cheap. So how did y'all do your initial funding?
Carefully.
Yeah. High interest. So we got fortunate. We had a trucking case that came in that, we had obviously a line of credit that we tapped out very quickly and didn't really know what we were going to do. We had this one trucking case. We mediated it, and it settled for more than we sort of thought. And it helped us kind of get the line paid down and sort of being able to fund other cases along the way. But that was, it was scary. We hadn't paid our employees in months. We were tapped completely out, and the defendants at that case said that they were willing to pay X. We said we wanted more than that, and they all just left. And our mediator was Alan Levin at the time. And Levin came into our room, and it was, if you ever mediated with Alan Levin, you may be there till 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And Alan comes into the room, and he's like, boys, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, what you got, Alan? He's like, bad news, the defendant's all packed up and left. And the good news is he left you a check for the exact amount you guys wanted, so you guys would be all right. Which,
Nice.
Yeah, it was
Exhale.
It was a little bit of a ballsy situation, because if they didn't pay it, I don't know exactly what we were going to do. But it's fun.
Seems like all y'all's stories before I joined the firm, which is weird. I get there and there's a bunch of financial security. You're welcome.
We needed you along the way. It's nothing like a financial drain to really help you get set things straight.
That's what I do. Inspiration.
So how long was it just you and Wes and some staff before y'all brought in other lawyers like Bill?
Yeah, I know the day because my middle son was born the same day we hired the first lawyers. That had been January 22nd of 2007. We opened in 2005. So about 2 years, when we hired a guy named David Romagosa, who's still with us.
Shout out to Romo.
Romo's around.
He's still there.
I'm sure he's not listening, but if he does, he'll get a shout out.
Might be.
I don't think he knows what YouTube is.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, or podcast.
There's no way he could figure out a podcast.
Me trying to tell him 8 years ago, Spotify blew his mind.
You know-
Like, but Bill, if I pay for them on Apple, I own them. I'm like, same thing.
You
Same
know-
thing, but way cheaper.
it's all he has is a bunch of Pearl Jam CDs. That's all.
He's got 9 copies of the album 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so you brought on Dave in 2007 and then grown.
Yeah, I've grown since. Yeah, now we have an office in Florida. We have a lawyer in North Carolina. yeah, so we just sort of expanded, but really
Technically, we have a lawyer in Colorado and Alabama too.
also true. But Houston's still home, and our Ocala, Florida is still pretty big too.
Ocala, Florida.
Yep.
What was the reason for setting up shop there?
We were doing pretty much the most of the tire work really in the country between us and a firm there called Castor Lynch. Between our two firms, I think we had the sort of majority of tire cases that were going on. Bruce Castor, he was on the cover of Wall Street Journal as tire company enemy number one. And he kind of had a long reputation, sort of invented tire litigation. He was retiring, and his partner Skip didn't really have the ability to handle that full docket. So we flew to Ocala. Skip made this really good pitch, told us that Ocala has 2 Outback Steakhouses,
not one.
So if we wanted to move to Ocala, we could enjoy a lot of blooming onions. We laughed hysterically and said, no, we'll merge, but we're staying in Houston. Like, we're not moving here. So we did that, and
I'm not a gourmand, but there's a couple of Outback Steakhouses in Houston, right?
I would think so. I don't.
They're not the same. The Ocala, something about horse country in Florida.
Yeah, maybe so.
So, but your cases are nationwide, right?
Yeah. So we're literally all over the country. Like to stay in Philadelphia as much as we can, but
where all are you licensed now?
California, Texas, Montana, and Minnesota.
Okay.
And then Wes is, what is he? Is he in Iowa? I can't remember.
He's in Iowa. I know because I was there when when the judge got pissed because he was like, "Where's your local counsel?" Wes is like, "Judge, I went ahead and just got licensed here," and the judge didn't like that.
You're 1 M state away from having a 3M license. I know that you're tight with those folks.
That hits a little bit.
Maybe
Sure, that's good.
Maine, Maryland, Michigan.
Yeah, maybe get one of those in.
Well, besides tire cases, we're going to talk about some auto products cases. I assume you got quite a few of those as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of auto products. That's mostly what we do. I'm in one MDL right now on a bear hugger, which is a medical device thing that I've been in for
10 years.
10 plus years. Yeah, don't let Wes hear that.
Yeah.
What is it, bear hugger? It's
a surgical blanket.
Air warming blanket.
Yeah. It's used to keep people warm during surgery, causes infections, allegedly.
But pursuants our petition.
Right.
You can tell we've done some defamation work too.
A little bit of defamation work here and there.
Yeah, were you involved in the Alex Jones case with Bill?
Yeah, we tried it with 4 of us, me, Mark, and Wes and Bill all tried it together.
This is the first time that was the only time.
Yeah, the only time the 4 of us tried a case together.
Kyle's notorious. Alex Jones gets up out of his seat and actually starts going for Kyle during closing. Because Kyle goes, no one thinks that Alex. He called him Alex in a way that was disrespectful. It was awesome, but it was disrespectful.
Alex Jones just like about that way.
He gets up and he started. It's on video. You can go on YouTube and watch it. It's got over 1 million views. I'm pissed because none of my clips do.
Did you guys fight?
No, luckily his security guard grabbed him from behind and threw him down.
His belt and pulls him back down.
That would have been awesome.
True story.
It would have been good because that would have got on some like true TV.
Also, he's a beefy fella.
He is a beefy fella.
Yeah, but he's like a chicken nugget.
He's not really light on his feet.
No, he's not shifty. He does not accelerate well in small spit.
And you had Kyle there, although he had a cane. He could have.
Yeah, cut his
right.
That's right.
As you all know, I'm a pacifist. And so if you ever get into a pinch, do not look to me for fisticuffs.
Not in Vietnam.
Not in Vietnam. Of course not in Vietnam.
Yeah, because you had cargo shorts on.
True. Okay, so I don't know. I think we covered the background. Bill,
pretty solid.
Okay. Well, good. Well, let's talk about the most recent one since it's fresh on your mind. So last Friday, you got a verdict of, I think, $31 million.
$31 million in Miami in state court.
And what was the case about?
So the case was the guy's delivering for Lowe's, or delivering Lowe's appliances, and his front wheel assembly, the whole thing breaks off. It breaks off at the rotor. It's called the hat. So this thing's like 300-pound missile. It goes across, they're on I-95, it hits the median, launches up in the air about 40 feet and just rains down and hits this poor guy right on top of him. He's traveling with his wife. They're young. He was 22. She was 25 at the time. It's literally their second anniversary. They had been on a mission trip to Guatemala, and they sort of unfortunately came back early because there was a volcano erupting. So they got kind of run out of the country. So they had to come back a couple days early, which is why they came back actually on their anniversary. And they landed and they were driving to his parents' house to have dinner. Then they were going to drive home. So it's like 6 o'clock in the evening, and this breaks off and comes and lands on them. Case was a little bit complicated in who we had to sue. So Lowe's had subcontracted their delivery services out to a company called XPO. XPO subcontracted it out, and it just kind of, this whole web went. XPO sent it to a company called Yokoyama. Sort of interesting about that is Yokoyama at the time didn't have a motor carrier's license, a DOT number, a driver, a truck, insurance, an office, had a Hotmail email account.
I love that fact.
Yeah, it just sort of stepped to me.
That was good.
So what is XPO doing here?
That would be pretty baller, though, if you were a lawyer, to just be like Kyle@hotmail.com. You know, the one. Be awesome.
So the case was two. I guess the things that were being tried are really two things. One, why did this fail, and how long did it take for any driver to notice? We thought we'd win that pretty easily. The bigger issue was holding a XPO accountable on an agency theory for this driver who's like 3 companies down the road from XPO. So that's really what I mean. Sort of spent 2 weeks on it, but 3 days was jury selection. So that drug for a while. So it wasn't a ton of days of testimony, but we got what we needed to.
Who do you like on jury consultants? We always kind of shout outs to those who do well.
We used someone that we haven't used before, and this one named John Calamus out of Ohio. Robert Swafford's always great, and he if you ever have a case or any case that you want to prepare your client to testify, Robert Swafford's the best in the game at that. The guy's absolutely amazing at preparing a client and in having that client be able to really tell their story in a way that is compelling and not sort of over the top. The guy's a master at it. So we used Robert did that for this case and also helped some with jury selection. But mostly he was really doing that for the client.
You prep him for deposition as well, Robert?
I think it would be a good idea. We haven't. Mostly we've always just got Robert in later. I could see how that'd be a really good idea. Most of what he does, though, is just get a client like comfortable sharing their emotions in a way that most people can't do, right? I mean, they're sitting here in front of total strangers. They're petrified. And how do you bare your soul in a way that is genuine and true? And Robert does it. And he does a great job at also. So Robert will spend some time with the client without you. And then he'll come and he'll tell you some of the stories. He's like, okay, here's some stories that I think, you can get out of this client that'll really tell their story. So he's good at prepping both the lawyer and the client. I mean, it would be good in depo. I'm not sure it's money super well spent, but it wouldn't hurt you. But man, he's really good at it for trial.
And so your client, was he killed or just badly?
He was killed. Yeah, killed instantly. And his wife's in the car, right? And they're literally talking about kind of what their plans are in the future, how they're like 4 or 5 years away from wanting to have children. They're really religious. Faith was big in their life. They wanted to do mission trips. They were just coming back from this mission trip, and they wanted to continue that. And they thought that was important enough to we wanted to get to know each other really well. We wanted to do these mission trips for years to come. And then, when the time's right, have kids. And they're sitting there holding hands, talking about it. And this tire rains out of the sky. It is a miracle she's not hurt. It's hard to appreciate how much force that is. I mean, this tire weighs about 300 pounds. It's going 50. They're coming back at 60. So you've got like a 111 mile an hour Delta V. It's crushed. I mean, they're driving a Ford Edge and it is destroyed. And she doesn't get hurt. It doesn't make a lot of sense. If you look at the car, you're like, how did the person in the passenger seat mostly just walk away? She had cuts and bruises and stuff, but nothing serious. It was wild that she did that.
What was their last offer on the file before trial?
0.
Yep.
It was like 0. They're just like, this is not our person.
This is not our person.
Look at this contract. It's not us.
Yeah.
And so how did you guys combat that at trial? What were the facts that helped you get over that hump?
So the ones that were really good are the guy driving named Francisco Romero is wearing an XPO shirt.
Sure.
He's wearing an XPO badge. He met with XPO managers every morning. XPO gave him an app, and he had to follow the delivery route exactly. Not like the roads you drive, but like, I'm going to deliver to Mr. Herbert first and Mr. Ogden second, and the time frames. They were really controlling him, they're sort of controlling everything he did during the day.
Whose responsibility was it to maintain the truck?
So that was weird. That was an argument we were making, was that it was XPO's, because contractually they had told Lowe's that we're going to maintain the truck. XPO's argument was that's just what Lowe's can enforce that, but you can't. There's an undertaker doctrine in Florida that's really, really good. It says if you undertake contractually or otherwise a duty
and you fail,
you're on it. We had some issues as to whether or not that was pled right. I don't know how we could have pled it clearer. We said specifically the undertaker doctrine feels right on point. Our judge disagreed with this, but she let me argue in closing that just a regular negligence theory. Like I couldn't argue the undertaker specifically. She wouldn't give us that jury instruction, but she gave us one close. So ultimately, there was a different defendant that got some percentage. He was the owner of the truck. He got 35% on him. That will be uncollectible, but
so $20 million verdict still.
Yeah, a little over 20. So that's the collectible part.
Did they have? I know there's software and delivery and some services that will track the car exactly where it's going, how fast it's going. The deal. Did they have that type of software?
Not how fast, but where. And we had great testimony that if he was running late, if he was sort of running late on his deliveries, that XPO knew, and they would call him. And they're like, hey, Francisco, you're late. Like, what's going on? They ran him at such a tight ship that he testified that he really didn't have time for lunch. He would sort of bring an apple and eat it kind of in between shifts or in between deliveries, which also is kind of important because one of XPO's points they kept making was if he was having problems with his truck all day, why would he not tell somebody? And we were saying the answer is two things. Like one, because if he's late, you guys are hounding him. And two, that was his only truck. So if there's something wrong, you took it out of service for 2 days or 3 days, he doesn't make money. So we're trying to give some incentive as to why he wouldn't say, hey, man, my truck's
messed up,
man.
Making noises.
Messed up. And the truck's messed up. I mean, these bearings completely seized, shot out. You've got a rotor on a spindle. Now the rotor is significantly bigger, so it's wobbling. And the rotor's cutting into the calipers and into the hub, ultimately breaks off the hub, breaks off a brake pad. So we have metal on metal when he's braking, which scores the rudder and makes the vehicle pull anytime you're braking. Like, there's a lot of evidence this truck is just full on falling apart during the day, and that this guy's sort of plowing through it. We always kind of went into the case thinking, if we lose this case because the jury thinks rotors spontaneously fracture, then there's nothing we can do about that, right? We put on our expert to show why it doesn't happen. But if a jury's going to believe that, you would believe that the highways are just full on killing fields, right? Because there's a lot of trucks out there that run out of grease. It doesn't result in these things shearing off instantaneously. It's like it's a progression, right? So we weren't super worried about that defense, but we had a really good expert named Jay Zimbauer out of Orlando who just like systematically, we had the full parts exemplars, and he was put it all together. I mean, these are like 300-400 pounds of stuff, and he's putting it together in front of the jury and showing how it's supposed to work, and then how it doesn't work when parts break, and what that causes. And I've never seen a jury for an hour and a half shake their head and pay attention. I mean, we had a lady who literally had her arms on top of the chair in front of her, just like staring and shaking her head, going, "Yeah, I get that. I totally understand." It was really good because it wasn't a particularly mechanically inclined jury, and they're watching like, got it, totally get it.
Jay Zimbauer is a pro.
Jay Zimbauer is
He's
a pro.
Very good.
What's his name?
Jay Zimbauer, Zembower. I guess you would put him under like fleet management.
Fleet management. I mean, he's a ASC certified mechanic. Yeah. He owns a pretty big outfit in South Florida that's got multiple Zimbauer Automotive. Yeah, multiple locations. He's really, really good.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, yeah, I was just saying he's good at it, sort of slow down, explaining things a way a jury can totally get. I mean, he had to explain the case to me a long time ago. I was like, Jay, I hear you, man. You're on the phone and you're telling me this stuff. I don't get it. And then when he like shows me, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Then he's comparing it to the photographs of the failed one. He's like, see right here, that's the cut that, that comes from this rotor coming up into the caliper, just like this. And you're like, yeah, of course it does, right? Like, that makes total sense.
He's real good at simplifying.
Yeah.
Did he have an opportunity to inspect the vehicle or only photographs?
Only photographs. So we had a spoliation issue that was a little bit tough. The owner of the truck fixed the truck and got rid of the broken tire parts after the lawsuit was filed. But where it was kind of hard is I didn't want a spoliation instruction against that guy.
Yeah.
He didn't have any money, right? So we had to sort of dance on this spoliation issue of saying, like, look, you didn't have the opportunity to inspect, but also not sort of throwing shade about it.
Yeah.
So we sort of walked that line a little finer in trial.
For those of you listening that aren't lawyers, which is pretty much just my mom, spoliation is where you intentionally or recklessly destroy evidence after you have notice of litigation.
Thank you, Bill.
Or notice of a claim.
Or notice of a claim
If someone puts you on notice.
Yeah. Once you're on notice of potential litigation.
There was a lot of photos, though. The police there, the Florida Highway Patrol, they took.
It was a brand new camera, and they never photo.
Did they have any? Was there body cam on any of them?
No, we didn't have body cam, which
Just
is
the snapshot, but they took 2,000.
it was wild.
Maybe
it was
more?
wild how many pictures they took. I mean, there was no angle on photographs.
They had just gotten a new camera at that office.
Yeah.
And they were like, we got to use it.
Remember the one that we had up in northern Minnesota where all they photographed was the life flight?
Oh, we had 900 angles of this helicopter.
This helicopter's coming in, boys.
Whoever got the camera for those police officers had never seen a helicopter before, because he took more photos of that, and then like everything else was as if he was taking a picture of Bigfoot, because it was all kind of fuzzy and blurry. And
This was where?
this is in northern Minnesota, in Duluth, actually.
But I mean, it's weird, right? Because it doesn't have wings, but it can fly like a bird.
This guy thought that exact thing. He was like, I've never seen this. What is this?
Yeah.
It's not even moving forward. It's just up. Look
Yeah,
at it. Standing still. I mean, it was that's the photos we got. And none of them were helpful. Everyone knew Lifeline came. There was no question there.
That.
But man, we got some great shots of that helicopter.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's great.
So when you get a massive verdict like this for $20 million, $30 million, is that, I mean, I guess the next big fight is the appeal and all that, or do they normally cough up the money? Like, what happens next?
Yeah.
They used to fight him.
Yeah. Well, right. Until I was appellate lawyer of a year. Right around
Got
that.
a little bit of a reputation now. Like now, it's just like kind of like, what's your wiring instructions?
Yeah, look, there's a fight, right? But it's just, how long is it going to go, right? You're going to have your motion for new trial for sure. That's going to get ruled on, where you try to convince the judge that she made her own mistake. There's a couple motions for mistrial, mostly when I was doing closing. But I think we get past that and we start talking numbers that make sense, right? It's not going to be the full amount, but time value of money. What can you take off of that makes sense? I know our client Juliana's got a lot of really cool plans for that, for whatever she sort of ends up netting, that are not related to her at all. So she wants to sort of be able to get started in that. I mean, like I said, faith was huge in her life. She has plans to use that to help people. She teaches children with autism. She's got plans for that.
I'm not so sure that exists. I've been following a lot of the RFK stuff.
Yeah.
But
Are you vaccinated?
But I mean, that's personal. I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
He does have measles.
I do. I have measles, and I have a lot of pork rinds, but I kind of rub them on my
What are you doing, keto?
Yeah, I mean, it keeps the Jesus spots off me.
Jesus.
Okay, a couple of questions. So was Lowe's a party to the case?
They were at one point. It's been a while. I can't remember if they got out or we let them out. I mean, it turns out like they hired, XPO is a big company, right? Big multinational company. They hired XPO to handle that. And they got out. I got the case referred to me during the pandemic, the day before statute of limitations expired.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, it was like I had no staff. I'm not even in Houston. I'm
You
trying to
had some of us.
no quality staff.
Having Bill there is like having two competent people at home sick.
If we're being honest, I wasn't there during the pandemic. I was Lysoling my groceries that were delivered to the door.
We were sort of strapped. So I was trying to draft this thing up and figure out who the right players are. I mean, kind of a sideshow. We sued a company called XPO Logistics LLC, it could be argued that that's the wrong company. I'm not arguing that, but XPO Last Mile
You threw it out there.
But I mean, look, the testimony in trial was that they're just divisions of each other, so we're fine. We also had like a relation back doctrine that we won on a summary judgment. But man, getting a case in the pandemic when you're not at home the day before limitations expires and you're trying to figure out who all these parties are was challenging, but it worked out.
So that kind of answers my next question, which is, so obviously you filed it over 5 years ago. If you filed it,
I filed in 2000.
So my question was going to be, how are the courts moving in Miami? Is it similar, kind of same pace that
it's not too bad. We had to go up on appeal on an issue, so that is why it took that long. We were also set for trial last year in February, and we had a judge change, and then it ultimately came back to our original judge, who was great. She's been on the bench since 1995, so she knows how to handle her courtroom. She did a really good job. But yeah, we went up on appeal on this sort of, not even a side issue, an issue of what freight forwarder means. There's this new kind of theory that trucking companies are using, saying there's preemption if they're a freight forwarder. And that has a definition, doesn't apply to this case. What a freight forwarder really is somebody who's like, if you called him, you're like, hey man, I need to get this piano from California to Houston. And he's like, really, man, that's cool. Cause I got another guy who's got like a car in Arizona, and someone else has got some other stuff over in Utah. And I'm going to try to just coordinate one shipment of that and get it to everybody. Right. That's what a freight forwarder is. XPO is trying to use that because it's been used sort of successfully or semi-successfully.
There's a statute on it.
Yeah.
Or there's a book of law on it.
It's in the FAA, because it was the statute really was to try to help ground transportation compete with flight, airline transportation. And it's been sort of twisted into this preemption issue that has gained a little bit of ground, not enough for defendants really, but clearly DRI is teaching everybody all about it right now.
Did they remove it to federal court with preemption?
They tried to remove it. We got it remanded. Then we went to the Court of Appeals in Florida, State Court of Appeals, won the issue there, came back. I mean, they filed, I got to think, a 12B6, a summary judgment, motions eliminating, motions to dismiss, like 5 different ways of dismissing the case on this freight forwarder issue. They were like factually wrong and legally wrong. So we won it all the time, but it got to be kind of a headache.
Got it. All right.
What are the lawyers like in Miami?
Loud. There's so much screaming, so much yelling.
Did they yell at you?
Yeah, they yelled at literally everybody. By the second week, I went in and just begged the guy one day. I was like, can you not yell till after lunch one day?
Who's he yelling at?
Everybody. He yelled at the judge in front of the jury. He yelled at us at all times. XPO had 4 lawyers there, and any argument that had to happen, like even anything as small as like an evidentiary thing, or would involve the 4 of them standing up and yelling. Wes and I a few times just left the courtroom. We're like, Judge, we'll be back in a little bit. They're going to be yelling for a while. We'll come in, tell you our position a little bit later. And the judge kind of laughed at us. She was like, yeah, I get it, man. These guys there's a lot of yelling. I've never seen so much yelling.
Just like talking loudly, or like, no, I hate.
Yeah, that second one, a little throatier, but yeah.
Wow.
I took one. I think that's the corporate rep depot for XPO. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who it was, but in one of the lawyers there, he kept doing speaking objections, and I gave him a lot of leash. I gave him like 4 or 5 different times on the record. I'm like, hey, let's keep it to the rules. Let's keep those objections, and he wouldn't. So finally, I was like, hey, shut your mouth or get out. And he did not like it, and you wouldn't say that to my face. I was like, yeah, I would.
They were Zoom fighting.
Yeah.
They did Zoom fighting.
Yeah.
It's like Zumba, but a little
It's like keyboard warrioring, but like a little more personal.
You just go, you can keep yelling, but then I'll mute you. But then you hit the mute button halfway through your sentence, so they think maybe it was an accident.
Yeah, but
and then when they look at you and you're like, I don't know how to fix it.
So the confrontation escalated quickly, and eventually it went in front of the judge, who did not care because she read the record and was like, he did give you some warnings. But nobody told Wes Ball that, who was trying the case with him. So like a week and a half into trial, he texts me. He's like, he calls me. He's like, I need to know everything that happened near this depot. He's like, I just learned that you and him got into it. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, is he giving y'all trouble? He's like, dude, you have no idea.
so much yelling.
What was the context of it coming before the court? Did you shut it down?
No, I wasn't even there to defend myself. Skip was there, but the judge had in their like motion, they cited it, and then in our response, we had put the full context of all the different warnings. So the judge was like, "I don't care what," again, because I always am a little bit of afraid. Kyle's a little more cavalier. When you're pro-hawked into a state that you're not licensed in, there's a bit of a line you have to walk, because if you push it too far, you get a pro-hawk pulled, God forbid, you got to report that for the rest of your, like probably for the rest of your career, at least 10 years on every application for any other state. And so we hold that dear to us. And so I was like, kind of like, ugh, and the judge was like, I don't care. I saw what he said. And actually he was pretty proper. So I was like, all right, cool.
Good. All right. Well, shout out to who was on your trial team.
Well, hold on. And in that depth with the corporate rep, you didn't accidentally blow like the statute or anything.
I've never accidentally blown a statute.
Okay. All right.
So
I do it on purpose.
do you have any recent sort of examples of a statute of limitations issue that you'd like to share with the class, Bill?
I don't.
Maybe from today.
I don't, because that class has not been certified.
Trial teams, me, Skip Lynch, Westball, our local counsel was there, had a lot, helped us a lot with the client. They had a great relationship. His name is Patrick Cousins. He's a local guy out of Florida. And then my excellent paralegals, Melissa and Megan, were there.
Megan's legit, right?
Yeah, she's new. It was her first ever trial.
Yeah. So I've been working with her over the last, like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months, and I'm like super impressed.
Yeah, she's good.
When you go into these different venues, right? Do you rely real heavily on local counsel to like for like basic blocking and tackling?
Yeah, you try,
Or
right?
try and learn
Sometimes
that
it's
stuff.
harder than, I mean, Skip, my partner, is, he's a Florida guy, he's licensed there. But they pick a jury in a way that it is, if I tried to explain it, I'm not sure I could.
It takes a long time.
It is a weird way to pick a jury. I mean, basically, once you've done your all your peremptories and you have kind of everyone's left, and especially at this time we had 4 defendants left, and we're like, okay, juror number 1, you say approve, and they say approve, 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 and everyone got 3 strikes, right? And then you say juror number 2 and approve until everyone's approved 6, but then you can backstrike. You're like, you know what? I don't like 2 anymore. And it is a really interesting chess game.
See, when I go to Montgomery County, they just give me the first 12 honest-looking people.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a ton of them, right?
Is it 6 jurors in
6 jurors.
Florida State Court?
Yeah, 6 jurors. We took 3 days to pick the juries, and we didn't have any.
Jeez,
and we
got 12?
We kept getting so we got our original panel. It wasn't going to be enough. We did our board hour with them, and then we would get like 6 more people, and then like 5 more people, and then like 9 more people. We kept getting to sort of these like extra more people until we had enough where we could get at least 6. We didn't have any alternates because we couldn't get any more jurors. We had exactly 6. And we couldn't use all our strikes. So we had 12 strikes. They had 3 each, which was fine. We didn't need all our strikes. But the way they do it is so unique, because it's a game. Like you're playing this like total game of chicken, because you're like, okay, I want to get these people. And I'm like, well, so these back strikes. And like, well, I'm going to restrike 1 now. And then the next person you go around like, well, I don't like 2 if you don't like 1. And it's.
Oh, you go back through.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you.
Well, you don't go back through. You don't go back through to get approved, because you've already approved them. But when you approve, so now when you approve, let's say you've struck 1 and 3, so now you're at 8 to get 6. You're like, okay, we have 6 people, and then you're like, actually, Judge, I don't like 3.
It's
crazy, and you just keeps going, right?
I actually kind of think that.
Did you make a Batson challenge?
It makes it a lot more chessy.
It is. It's a total game of poker.
Like
right?
you might not want one on, but you don't want them to know it.
That's exactly right. You're thinking about that the same thing, and trying to figure out. I mean, we do this too, but trying to figure out where you're getting to.
Yeah.
Who's coming up next.
But doing it like that and being able to go back and take one from before,
Is that even for a small car wreck case would be the same process?
I mean,
they do the process
this is just a big car wreck case.
Yeah, they're the same process. They do this. They call it, and every judge does it a little bit different, but every judge thinks that they do it exactly the same as everyone else. So when you're in there, it's like, Judge, how do you do your back strikes? And it's always like everybody else does, bro. Like everybody else. I'm like, well, I've done this a few times in Florida, and it's always different. So there's no like everybody else does.
So it's like hearsay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So maybe not.
Everything I learned about trying lawsuits in Florida, I learned from that movie Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves.
Is that in Florida? I didn't know.
It starts in Florida. Which character do you think you were the most like in Devil's Advocate?
Pacino.
You're acting like I remember that movie from like what, 89?
It's a pretty good movie.
It is a pretty good movie. I will watch it.
Before Keanu was Keanuing.
Was he even in Heat yet?
I don't know. Wait, are you talking about the lemur?
We did.
So over the years that Kyle and I have worked near each other, he's given me some one-off cases that have been a little different, we'll call it.
This one is for my dad.
Yeah, this one was a feeling at her. He's like, Bill, you handle this. I was like, all right. So I get into it, and a lemur had attacked
Like a ring-tailed lemur?
yes, exactly. And had attacked a mail courier, and who the family member of Kyle's. And so I get into the case, I take a couple depots, and I realize this is
That's a monkey of a different color.
and they have legit fangs. Lemurs are not safe.
They
And she
did some
pulls
damage
in the truck and opens that sliding door to put the mail in, and this lemur gets inside, and this lemur
Lemur.
but her name was Marla Reeves. I still remember Marla's last name, Reeves, because the lemur's name was Keanu. And it was like, Keanu attacked Reeves?
What?
And to this day, we're fairly certain that's the largest judgment ever involving a lemur injury case in the state of Texas.
You represent the post.
The postman,
officer.
yes. Kyle's cousin?
Yep.
How'd this lemur get loose?
It's kind of like a story of who let the dogs out. This lemur was always loose. They had this lemur, but they raised it as if the world is its oyster.
Are lemurs considered primates? Are they closer to
Primates?
never really did research?
I never researched doing that
I
case.
thought about how to classify them. This was before that movement, but I think so. Yeah, I think it would be closer to a monkey than any other. Maybe closer to a monkey than a cat.
Kyle's gonna look it up.
All right, I'm looking this up.
Kyle's opening his app, his lemur.
Put your glasses on, Bill. Show me a lemur. Oh, it is a monkey.
Hey, Meta, is a lemur
Whoa.
primate?
Bill, lemur is just like you. A lemur is a wet-nosed primate.
Yeah. The
Next episode with Ray.
Okay, so I want to. We've been going a while. I want to make sure and cover this close to. Or was it over $1 billion with interest? I guess?
Anagasu.
Yeah, it was. So that was October of 23.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was against
Mitsubishi. Yeah.
and that was a product defect case.
Seatbelt defect case. And
Your client.
he was quadriplegic. Sort of an interesting case. A 1992 Mitsubishi 3000 GT.
Such a sexy car. Back
It was
in the day.
It is a
Still is.
sweet car.
Still is. Dangerous as shit.
Seatbelt was not the best.
Yeah, dangerous car.
Don't care about the seatbelt.
Looks awesome.
So this is right when airbags are coming in and starting to become standard in cars. And before airbags, the purpose of a seatbelt was to keep you as snug as humanly possible in the seat. After airbags came out, there was a little bit of different approach, right? A seatbelt is supposed to kind of offload energy into the airbag so that you get the benefit of the airbag, because if you're stuck in the seat and the airbag's not going to get to you, right? So Mitsubishi, in that case, they said, it was a really weird argument they made. They said, this is a transition period, and we sort of didn't know how to handle this, right? So the seatbelt had this thing called rip stitching. And basically the seatbelt folded over itself in kind of an S form, and there was stitching between it, and that released 4 inches of slack in a frontal collision. So that was the idea of how they were going to offload your energy into an airbag. And so the stitching would kind of break, and then the next row would break, and next row would break. That's all happening in milliseconds, but it was kind of offloading you. The problem with that idea is a lot of crashes are multi-collision crashes, right? So if your car hits something in the front and then rolls over, you're basically unbelted at this point. So Mr. Amagasu's, he went and picked up his son from an SAT prep course. They're driving home. He loses control on a wet road, and he goes up a berm, and he clips a tree first. And it's not a big collision, but he clips it enough that it tears off the rip stitching. And then he rolls and does a quarter roll, and on the hood of his car, he hits another tree. And when he does that, he goes forward and hits his head on the roof rail, where the windows are. And he's quadriplegic. And he's not ventilator dependent, but he is fully quadriplegic. He hadn't lived a day at home since. Really nice guy. His granddad is a super famous furniture maker, and he was a furniture maker in Pennsylvania.
Next guess here. Okay.
So he was making furniture in Pennsylvania. Super smart guy. Really compelling. He did the steps. So he's at this nursing home called the Inglis House. And because he's really smart, he formed basically kind of these little unions. He had this patient advocate group that he created for patients, and they advocated for better care, better food. Not that it was bad there, but they things that that one-on-one is hard to advocate for, but as a group, they could say, we really want this improvement and that improvement. And then all the nurses were like, man, can you form a nursing advocate group so we can advocate for better things that we want as nurses? And it like just kind of kept spiraling. The guy's like kind of the mob boss of the Inglis house now and kind of runs everything. So he's a really good guy, really interesting story.
And so the defect was the seatbelt, just the whole seatbelt system.
The idea of this, what's called rip stitching.
The idea, see it. Like if you when you back in the day, you'd see it folded over on your seatbelt.
It was interesting, right? It was just it existed for like 2 or 3 years total. Mitsubishi's never used it again. Not many manufacturers did use it. They had other ideas on how to do this. The problem with that rip stitching is once it's released, you just have slack in the seatbelt, and there's
4 inches.
Yeah, there's no way of bringing it back. Our guy, Mr. Yamagasu, is 5'9", so like the actually 50% height male. When he sat in the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, he had 3 inches of headroom above him. So you introduce 4 inches of slack and on a rollover with 3 inches of headroom.
That's 1 inch.
Going to hit.
That's 1 inch, not enough.
It's 1 inch, not enough. I mean, we just kept saying that in trial, like 3 minus 4 is -1, right? This isn't any good for this guy. And it's, it's bad luck too, right? Like you have to hit your head in such a perfectly aligned way to have this break. If his head's sort of bent one way or the other, is probably fine. We used his son as kind of our surrogate, right? Because his son was a kid who's 14 at the time, so he was 5'3", right? So he's fine because he's got a lot of room.
Yeah.
But Mr. Yamagasu doesn't have the room.
Where's that case sit now?
On appeal. In fact, our brief is due tomorrow.
And yeah, I think
hopefully it's ready to go. You're not like waiting on.
No, I was going to wait for this to be done and start some research.
Like you're not waiting on me and Bill to do any research.
You have some bare bones, but
I got a concept of an idea for an appeal.
It's East Coast time, so it's only in 6:58
in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania. A defendant appealing a judgment like that, are they able to post some small percentage bond?
No, they did 1.2 billion.
They put up 1.2 billion.
That was the bond. Yeah, it's
125%.
Yeah, 120, 125. Yeah. So what I call big Mitsubishi put up the bond. The case was against Mitsubishi North America. It was like the North American subsidiary, but big Mitsubishi, the Japanese corporation, posted the bond.
What was the total judgment?
Pre-interest, just under $1 billion.
Yeah, 976.
Yeah. So it was $800 million in punitives and $176 million in compensatory.
Got it.
Is it as hard to hold on to a punitive finding in Pennsylvania as it is here?
No.
Well, short answer.
Yeah, I mean, is it hard anywhere compared to here?
Right. Harder than here, no, right? They look much to the U.S. Supreme Court guidance. I think we fit in there, right? I mean, one of the things is, what was the actual harm, right? How do you compare to the harm? You obviously have a kind of the tenfold, which we're well within. The Pennsylvania Court of Appeals has an interesting case on a roundup right now. There was if I'm getting it right, it was a $25 million verdict with a $150 million punitive award. That's been heard already, so that opinion will come out before ours. I think it'll be sort of telling on what they're thinking on that.
We're trying that at the same time.
Yeah,
beat by $1 million.
I saw Jason Itkin at the courthouse the day we were closing. I didn't know that they were there. I didn't know there's a roundup trial coming. And I saw him walking into the courthouse, and I was like, that looks like Jason Itkin, I think. He was a little ways ahead of me. And that was all I saw. And we did closing. Our jury deliberated over the weekend. And I'm like just looking at my phone, and I get this email that Jason had just hit Monsanto for that verdict. And I was like, it was Jason. So I texted him, I was like, congratulations, buddy. It's like, I too am trying a case. I had no idea you were here.
Interesting. So there must have been some bad documents or bad testimony to get a jury that angry.
It wasn't really bad documents. It was a lack of testing. Yeah. So we just had them that they didn't test this. They did no rollover testing at all in the 3000 GT. They tried to argue that just wasn't really standard of care in the early 90s, but we showed how Honda was doing it, another Japanese corporation. And we had a lot of rollover testing that Honda was doing. And we're like, look, it was doable. You guys didn't do it. And that's where we really came back to that transition period. So they used that. They were trying to use it as a defense. Like, man, we didn't know what we're doing as a transition period. And we just kept saying, if it's a transition period, you really have to be testing.
Yeah, why are you making cars?
It's a brand new idea. This rip stitching is a brand new idea. So don't tell me that on your brand new idea, you don't have to test. That's what you have to test the most, right? And the jury really held on to that. And like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? That's not safe at all.
It's an excuse, but not a reason.
No, yeah, it's just not reasonable at all, right? I mean, you're like, hey, we got this brand new idea. We're going to put hydrogen in this blimp and see what happens, right? Like, doesn't
Wouldn't work out well.
No, you got to test it. You got
It's
to
on
test
video, actually, even though it was in black and white.
All right. Well, unless you'll have anything else, I think we're probably.
No, that's it. But, I mean, you know, Kyle,
I said we're going to stop right now. No more talking.
if you sum him up, he's one of the people in the world that's a bigger asshole than me that everybody seems to like more.
Let me ask on the Mitsubishi case. Were there any pre-suit offers on that one, or was it just 0 or $1 billion? Cake or death?
I believe there were no realistic pre-suit.
Correct.
There were offers while the case was pending and like while I was being tried.
Okay.
And especially right at the end, there were offers. Our client was brave. Like, hats off to this guy, right, for hearing some legitimate offers and saying no. He wasn't at trial every day. One, it was extraordinarily difficult to get him there. And two, I never want a jury on a case like that to get used to what the damage that man has gone through is. So we always thought if he's there every day, you sort of get a little bit
Immune to it.
A little bit. I mean,
He's moving around every day.
I mean, he was in bad shape, right? He had this nurse who's the sweetest lady I've ever met in my life from Jamaica, and she was kind of his main caregiver. So when he's in the courtroom, she's there and behind him, and she would massage his head and just do all these little things. And I put her on the stand. I said, why do you, and I legit didn't know the answer. I said, why do you massage his head? And she said, that's the only pleasure he can feel. So when I know he is stressed, he's having to listen to something he doesn't want to hear, she would go massage his head. I honestly did not know that was the answer I was going to get. And I said, I saw you brushing his hair. He's like, yeah, he loves that. I was like, all right, I saw you put a scarf on him. And she's like, well, I know whenever, and she was reading some monitor. It wasn't a temperature, but when his blood sugar, whatever it is, when he gets to here, I know he's going to feel cold. So he can sort of feel cold. So I mean, she was just like, and I asked her, I was like, would you consider if Rue gets the money to be able to forge you at his house, would you consider it? And she's like, I would be honored to be at his house and his full-time caregiver. Well, this lady was the sweetest lady I've ever met. She was great.
And
I can't find anybody to drop off my dry clean.
Yeah, but
I don't make furniture.
I got other issues.
It's a furniture maker.
Sucks.
Yeah, my furniture is terrible.
I feel like in every giant case, there's always like a witness like that. That's just like a heavy.
It just brings in
perfect.
In the Charles case, the one in Florida, it was the client. She's just unbelievable. We were gonna call her mom, and then we're gonna call her deceased husband's dad because they're really, really good people and they're really good witnesses.
You didn't need them.
It just felt like it was going to take away from Liliana's story. She's the only one that can recover in Florida because they were married with no kids. Parents can't recover in Florida if you're married. And we're like, man, she
stuck the landing. Did you
like there's no reason to take away from what she just did.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, congratulations on all your success. You and I met years ago when I was starting out, gave me a lot of good advice on how to be a PI lawyer. So thanks for coming on the show and
Absolutely.
Doing great work for your clients.
Sweet. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, he didn't tolerate me.
If you want to fire Bill, do it on Christmas Eve.
Wes fires me. Kyle's usually the one that's like, maybe.
Let
Come
Romo,
back Monday, we'll talk.
let Romo do it.
Now you're talking. All right, guys. Well, thanks.
Kyle.
And if you like this, follow us on YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn now.
Yep.
Where all the episodes are posted. And YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Apple. Yeah, Apple Podcasts. That's where I typically listen.
Nailed it.
All right. Feeling it. Thanks. And we'll see you next time. Good night.